Hey Cavs fans, welcome to another episode of the Cavs Pick and Roll Podcast, the podcast for diehard Cavs fans. Corey here with you along with Alex. AP,
hey,
man.
Corey.
Been a minute.
What? Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a minute.
How you been?
I thought maybe you would still be singing those Beach Boys songs from last time, but
Oh, don't get me started.
yeah,
I don't think the listeners want to hear that.
No, I don't think so. But no, been good, man. It's kind of same boat as before. Not a whole lot going on, and filling my nights with watching Sean Kemp YouTube highlights before going to bed. You never said anything about the one I sent you a couple of weeks ago, by the way. I'm kind of disappointed by that. I remember saying in the text, like, I hope this hypes you up as much as it did for me. I feel like I can't even go to bed now. And you just you just ghosted me. You didn't even respond back. You did.
I remember watching it. I didn't reply. Oh man,
no lie, Alex. I watched one last night and I thought about sending it to you, but I said no. He didn't appreciate the last one.
No, I did reply. I replied. He was also the Cavs player of the day on the Cavs subreddit.
You did.
And then I sent you a link to the.
Yeah, but you didn't say anything about
the
his
thread
highlights or yeah. All right.
And there were some good posts about him in that thread.
Yeah, there was. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at right now, right? It's still, tail end of summer, waiting for Cavs basketball. Not a whole lot going on, and then out of nowhere, Alex, the Cavs decide to make a move, a roster move, a free agent signing, if you will. And we got to talk about it. The Cavs are bringing back, I can't believe we're saying it, Tristan Thompson.
TT.
Back in the land. Let me start off with this. What was your initial reaction when you found that out, that it was TT coming back, filling that, I think, last roster spot for the Cavs?
I was not as excited as everyone else, apparently. I looked at Twitter and everybody seemed excited about it. I got on the Cavs subreddit and there was a thread about it already, of course, with reactions. And sure. What I saw was overwhelmingly positive. There were a few not so positive reactions, but, majority seemed like, hey, Tristan Thompson's back. It's what we need. We needed another big man that can rebound. We needed a veteran, a veteran presence, and Tristan fills that role. Hey, I guess that's okay. It's not like we're going to be relying on him for a bunch of minutes.
Hopefully not, right?
Yeah, hopefully not. Honestly, I have not really followed him since he left the Cavs. Like, I know he did a little stint with the Lakers maybe 2 seasons ago, but I don't really know how well he played other than looking at some stats.
Right. Yeah, he kind of disappeared right after, really, when the Cavs are no longer competing for finals anymore. His stock went down greatly. The Cavs moved on from Tristan, after 9 seasons, his first go around. And it's just, I guess, where would you put it in the all-time Cavs shocking news? Like, is this in your top 10, in your top 5, top 3? Like, it's just crazy that he's coming back after all this time and at this point in his career to potentially, like, some are even speculating, like, is he going to retire after this run with the Cavs?
I don't know that it's shocking. Because it's not like it's the first time the Cavs have done this. It's not as bad as them bringing back Varejao after he was out of the league for 4 seasons. And how old is Tristan? Is he 31, 32, somewhere in there?
Yeah, TT's only like 31 right now. So he's relatively young.
Kind of young, and that's surprising for, it seems like he was on the Cavs for such a long time, and he was their Iron Man. Like, he had the most games played in a row on the team.
Yep.
And it just seemed like he was such a mainstay for so many years. I'm surprised he's still, 31, 32 years old. So that was the surprising thing for me.
Yeah, it feels like his career is definitely at the twilight. He's not going to be playing, until he's pushing 40 or anything like that. He might be done within another year, 2, 3 years, something like that. I guess it depends. But yeah, it was not what we were expecting, right? It kind of just came out of nowhere. And, he started his journey with the Cavs back in 2011. He was the number 4 overall pick, along with Kyrie that year, going number 1. So it was a pretty good draft. And yeah, he spent 9 years here, was there for many playoff runs, final runs, was an easy guy to root for, especially that first go around. And, his stock dwindled like any player does after that amount of time, right? But I think it's just kind of a feel good story. Like, hey, that guy that won a championship with us is coming back, and at the end of the day, when he plays this season, he'll play double digit seasons with the Cavs. Um, not a ton of players have probably done that, and that would be a good future future episode or segment. What Cavs players have played double digit years with the organization? That list can't be that long. So he'll join that company, and he'll be on a playoff team this year, and it's going to be kind of cool to see TT playing some playoff minutes in Cleveland again.
It's not like he was ever an all-star with the team to
No,
begin with. He was always a solid role player, 10 points, 10 rebounds. Of course, he played with LeBron, and LeBron was a stat monster. But
sure.
Tristan fit his role on that team perfectly. He did what he needed to do. And I'm just hoping that he can bring that back again, with the minutes that he's given.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, he benefited from the team that was around him, but he also solidified being on that team for so many years, right? He was an undersized center, but his mobility, agility, athleticism, all those things, the way he was able to switch on pick and rolls and still be able to hang relatively well with whoever he switched on to guard wise. Like, he was very versatile, even though he was undersized, which is why he was able to hang around so long, get paid, get contracts, all that thing kind of stuff. But obviously, we know that we're not going to get that same level of production, coming back. He'll be in a completely different role. He'll be a backup, probably to Jarrett Allen, right? Don't know what his minutes are going to look like,
Mm-hmm.
but what are you kind of looking for him to kind of be able to do this year, to be able to contribute and ultimately make it feel like, from a fan perspective, like looking back at it in hindsight, down the road, like, okay, that was a good signing. Like, what does he have to do to prove that for you or for Cavs fans?
He just needs to be a backup for when Jared Allen needs to sit or Mobley needs to sit. Just somebody to come in, bring energy like he used to. He was always a force in the paint. Like you said, he was undersized, but that didn't stop him from making his presence felt in the paint and grabbing rebounds and making space, so guys could get in. Um, you know, uh, the thing that concerns me a little is that he didn't play at all last season, and I
Yep.
wonder what kind of shape he's in. I wonder if he's lost a step. A lot of factors to consider here. Did you see like
Yeah.
what the deal was? Like, how much is he
No,
signing for
no.
minimum?
I haven't. I don't think those details have been released yet. I haven't seen anything yet, at least. But I have to assume it's a 1 year deal. I know that. So, and we don't have a lot of cap space, right? So it's probably going to be for minimum or not much more than that. And I think, realistically, I don't expect him to play 25 minutes a night or anything like that. It's probably going to be more in that 10 to 15-minute range. And yeah, for me personally, I just want to see him come in, grab 3 to 5 rebounds a night, and get a couple buckets, couple garbage point buckets, play D, things like that. But even more importantly than that, and this is probably one of the reasons why the Cavs have wanted to bring him back too, is just for that mentorship, right? There's not a lot of veterans, old guys on this team, not at least that have a ton of experience, right? This team's still relatively young. So Tristan, knows what it's like to be in these playoff battles, go through a championship. He's been in the league for a while, and hopefully he can help out the Jared Allens, the Evan Mobleys, and just provide some of that leadership, some of that wisdom with those guys. And it feels like a win-win. That's probably from at least the Cavs perspective of why they felt this was a good move to make.
Do
Um,
you feel that way, Corey?
I
Like
mean, I
I
don't
I
know.
don't I don't like get that angle of it because I always felt like he was kind of an immature dude.
He was for a very
Like
long time because he was 21 years old with
he
millions of
was
dollars at his
he was
fingertips,
Mr.
and
Kardashian, and he
he
brought the
was,
whole Kardashian
yeah,
circus with him. He had the
yep,
scandal where he was a cheater multiple times.
yeah,
It's like this
yeah.
dude could not grow up. You know,
Well, we'll see. We'll see what
is he going
happens
to be
now,
a
right?
positive presence in the locker room? I don't know. That's not something I would hang my hat on if you're talking about positives for bringing him in.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm just trying to figure out from the Cavs perspective what benefits did they see, and that's one that I'm thinking they may have thought of. Otherwise, they wouldn't have brought him in, right?
Well,
Because they
he's
know he's not going to be competing for a starting job, and he may or may not even play consistent backup minutes. It just depends on the rotation and what's going on. Dean Wade is still on the roster. If he's healthy this year, hopefully he's playing a lot more than last year. They brought in Damian Jones, a young athletic big that played with Golden State for a couple years. Let the 24-year-old guy run around. Not I don't think they're going to push Tristan around for, like I said, 25 minutes a night. So it's going to be interesting to see where he fits in the rotation. And I'm just curious if it's more to bang with guys in practice and provide some leadership and wisdom. He's 30 now, not 20 anymore. So hopefully things have changed a little bit from that front. But we have to wait and see.
well. Here's the conspiracy for you, Corey. Why did the Cavs bring him in? Maybe
Oh,
it's
you know
because
why?
his agent is Rich Paul.
Yeah, I mean, he's just lining up the next move, right? I don't even have to go on. I don't even have to go online to read that BS to already know that that's out there. But yeah, yeah. But TT
Clutch
man
Sports.
back in Cleveland. It's a good story, I guess. We'll see what comes of it, and not what we were expecting by any means, right? But it
It
happened,
definitely
and
came out of the blue.
it
Like
came
I
out of the
was
blue.
not
Yeah,
expecting it at all. Not in a million years. I thought they would bring
and
back Tristan Thompson.
the last thing, and then we'll segue into something else that's kind of related to this, but the Cavs seem to be like they're hyping this up somewhat. Like they made the announcement on like Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, social media now, right? But like it wasn't just a one and done kind of post. Like they've done multiple posts on Tristan Thompson, like pictures from him when we won the championship and his prior, time here and stuff like that. And like they're kind of hyping up the signing, the move. It's not just to announce it and it's done. So you know, I don't know. I don't really read much into that. I just find it interesting. They're approaching it a little bit differently. And it is different because they have material to work with to try to get Cavs fans excited about the move they just made. So yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be funny firing up some 2K at some point and having Tristan Thompson back on the roster. So yeah. So so when we learned about Tristan Thompson coming back, it got us thinking a little bit, Alex. Like, you already kind of mentioned somebody else, and we'll get to him. But Tristan Thompson isn't the first player to have a second stint with the Cavaliers. So we thought it'd be kind of fun to revisit some other former Cavs players that have had multiple stints with the Cavs and kind of talk about what that second stint looked like, and what happened during their time here, and just kind of talk through that a little bit. And there's some fun names on here, and I think it'll be a fun little segment to talk through. So, do you want to grab the first one, Alex? Kind of the most recent one too, as the next player that had a second stint with the Cavs.
Yeah. So, as you alluded to, very recent. Last season, we had Danny Green, who we drafted back in 2009. Lasted one season, his rookie season with the Cavs, and then came back in 2022. So what is that? 12 seasons later.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
that's pretty incredible. So one season at the beginning of his career, one season at the end of his career. Always
Yeah,
a
pretty much.
Cavalier.
Well, he did sign with Philadelphia. I saw this a couple days ago. He just
Hmm.
signed a contract, so he's going to play another year in the league. He's 35 already, so he's getting up there. And yeah, it's just interesting because that 2009 team, that was the last year before LeBron kind of bolted the first go around. But that team was in a different space. They really didn't have room for a rookie. And we've talked about Danny Green when we made the signing last season. about really he was just there to be the background guy and the family photographs and dancing on the sidelines. And what's kind of funny is he only played 20 games, Alex, in his rookie season for the Cavs. And in this second stint, he only played 8 games. So roughly half of what he played his first year. So it's kind of wild because he's had a pretty solid NBA career. And he was on our list when we did, the best second round draft picks in Cavs history. And when it's all said and done, he's going to have a 13, 14, maybe 15-year long career, a pretty solid, respectable NBA career, but only played for the Cavs a total of 28 games in his career, which will be kind of wild at the end of the day.
Yeah, totally.
So his second stint here, and a lot of these guys, nothing to scream about here. Again, he's up there in age, but that signing kind of came out of nowhere too. We're like, what? Danny Green? Are you kidding me? And we were excited, right? Because he could shoot and we needed shooters. But his second stint kind of went as I would say expected. It wasn't really surprising. He averaged 6.5 points. He shot 45% from 3-point range. But again, I mean, he only jacked up so many in those 8 games. And obviously, Bickerstaff tried to use him in the playoffs, in a matchup that really wasn't in his favor, putting him on Julius Randle. And the Knicks were just a bad matchup for a lot of Cavs players, but Danny Green was included in that.
Yeah,
So,
in that respect, it was kind of a bizarre re-signing because they brought him back. They didn't really play him during the regular season or give him any minutes, and then they just started working him into the rotation during the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, it was weird. And what I recall from that, because you got to remember, he came off from an ACL tear or something like that. He only played 3 games the previous season with Memphis. I forget what he had, but he basically missed the season. And when we signed him, he was somewhat still in recovery mode. And I remember at some point Bickerstaff said in an interview or something like that, they're kind of slowly bringing him back in. Let him work back into practices, 5-on-5 practices. Give him a couple minutes at the very end of the season, which he did. He played a game or two, the last 2 games. He had a great last game. That's the game Isaiah Mobley went off as well, but Danny Green was solid. And then all of a sudden, he was in the playoff rotation, and that wasn't a very good decision, in my opinion, at least, because it didn't work in our favor, and he just, I don't know, he wasn't able to contribute like the way you want somebody that was getting the amount of minutes he was in the playoffs. But yeah, it was a bizarre signing, similar to the Tristan Thompson. It had that feel-good story, but it just, at the end of the day, it didn't really amount to much.
Right. Who you got up next?
So next, and you already called this one out, and I know you're going to have a ton to say, but Wild Thing, Anderson Varejao. I remember at one point we did a Tristan Thompson versus Anderson Varejao comparison, and you annihilated Andy. You trashed me basically when I tried to put him above Tristan or at least neck and neck with Tristan. And I think your beef was just the fact that, he was injured a lot over the time.
Man made of glass. I mean, I get it. He was, it's such a weird thing that he was such a fan favorite too. He was such a fan favorite, yet he only played like the half of every season.
He had 3 seasons of playing 70 games or more in the 13 years he was in Cleveland.
3.
So you're onto something there. He was easy to root for, though. He had the hair and he had the hustle. And he was able to do some nice things before Tristan Thompson got here.
We were giving him ridiculous contracts, too. I remember these extensions we were giving him. And I was like, why are we giving him this extension when he played 25 games last season and 25 games the season before that? It never made sense.
LeBron effect.
He way overstayed his welcome. We should have cut him loose years before. He's just collecting that money. Like, I don't know why he's such a big fan favorite. Like, he rarely played. He just collected salary cap from us. That's what I had to say about that.
I liked Andy. I liked rooting for him. I wish he played more.
A lot of people did.
And he was here during the first playoff runs for the Cavs in the LeBron era. Going up against the Washington Wizards, Gilbert Arenas, and getting past Detroit, and eventually making it to the 09 finals against the Spurs. Like, he was there for all that, along with the Drew Goodens and the Z's and stuff like that. Daniel Marshall, that was before Tristan's time. And
Booty.
he was here when Tristan came in and beyond that. And it's still kind of comical that the year we win a championship is the same year that he played for both teams that were in the finals. If you remember, the Cavs traded him to the Blazers during the 2015-2016 season. They release him. Golden State signs him and ultimately plays against the Cavs in the finals and doesn't get the ring because the Cavs win their first championship in team history. So it's kind of funny how that worked out. But Andy was just here for so long, and he was just so easy to root for because he was here during a lot of the good times, and he was here during the dark years after LeBron left. He was still here, when we were running out, Samardo Samuels and Varejao, to play our front court. But I hear what you're saying, and I've seen arguments online saying the same thing you are. We way overpaid him for the amount of games he actually played.
He's
But
such a fan favorite, though, that I'm probably going to get a bunch of hate tweets. But I only speak the truth, people.
yeah. Turn off your notifications, AP. Turn off your notifications. But what was wild here was he did not play in the NBA since the 2016-17 season with Golden State. He played 14 games. Okay. And then I think he did something in Brazil for a year or two up until 2019. And then bam, out of nowhere. And I can't believe this was this long ago because it doesn't feel like it. But 2020-2021 season, the Cavs announced they're bringing Andy back. And he plays 5 games in a Cavaliers uniform during that second stint. Obviously, his minutes were low. He played 7 minutes per game, 2.5 points, 2 rebounds, or I'm sorry, 4 rebounds he was grabbing a game. But it was kind of fun, and you might not admit this, it was kind of fun seeing Andy run
It
around again in
was.
the Cavs
It
uniform.
was.
It was a
Yeah,
good story.
I admit that. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool to bring him back. I mean, end of his career.
Yeah, and I'm pretty positive. I'm not sure if I'm assuming it still is today, but I also remember that transitioning into him getting a job within the Cavs organization, some office position, or I don't know what he's doing, but he started working for the Cavs after that too. Hopefully he's still around doing something. But it was a nice segue. Don't be shocked if he ever ends up on the Cavs wall of fame at some point, or wall of honor, whatever that honor wall, whatever that's called. I forget what it's even called now. They haven't done one of those in a while, but I could see him potentially being a candidate for that at some point down the road as well.
Yeah, totally. Definitely could see that.
Tristan too. Neither one of them are going to get their
Yeah.
numbers hung in the rafters, but Tristan as well. They're both neck and neck. As potential candidates for sure.
Just based on the number of seasons they were with the Cavs, and of course Tristan part of the championship team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he played, and then we'll transition to the next guy. I mean, his career, he played over 600 basketball games in the NBA, and he played a total of like 37 for Golden State. So, he played almost 600 games in a Cavs uniform, basically, even though he had so many years of being injured. Again, you're not going to have, like TT, Andy's in that camp. There's not a lot of players, that list isn't too long, that played double digits in a Cavaliers uniform. And that goes a long way. And the organization is showing that when they brought him back, when they're bringing guys like Tristan back, and so on and so forth. All right, you're up next. Who you got?
Let's see. Mo Williams.
Yeah.
Man, this was back when I had Cavs season tickets. So I remember watching Mo a lot, and I was a huge Mo Williams fan. He had speed, quickness. He could shoot the ball. He could hit the three. He was also a fan favorite. I remember in the corner of the queue, they had a Mo Gotti banner, and it was like the Mo Gotti section of seats up there in that corner. So that was really cool. But yeah, he played for the Cavs 2008 until 2011. three seasons. Yeah,
Technically four
four. Yeah,
seasons.
technically. Um, and then he came back in for the 2015-16 season.
Yeah, it was now this one has one of the better stories to it, right? Because he comes back the year the team wins the championship. Like he's on that roster, he's in the team picture, he has a championship ring. And, that's just cool because, like you said, he was a fan favorite. He was easy to root for. I tend to like the guards the most on the team. So I've always liked the Mo Williams, the Terrell Brandons, the Kyrie Irvings, just because like the point guard's like usually my favorite position. And Mo, like you said, was a great shooter. He made an all-star game one year and again was around during the tail end of those competing years before someone took their talents down to South Beach.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly it. He was one of those guys, just like TT, that just fit next to LeBron
he did.
perfectly. Like they
He did.
just fed off of each other, kind of like how LeBron and Kyrie fed off of each other. But Mo not quite as talented as Kyrie, but still
Right,
that
right.
same vein. Like you said, he made an All-Star game, even though I believe he was a substitute. He
He
got
was.
he was a late addition, but
He was.
yeah,
Yeah, and the other thing too, and maybe my memory's foggy on this, but I don't think so. Like when LeBron left, I somewhat recall Mo Williams kind of being a little bit upset about it. Like he
yeah,
said something like, "We're going to continue to compete at a high level," and
he felt
not.
betrayed.
Yeah, he felt a little betrayed. Yeah, and part of it probably was because I don't remember his contract scenario at the time. He made a decent buck too, right? He benefited as well, and he deserved a good contract. He was a good player, but he kind of had to go through those first couple of dark years, without that superstar around, without being on national TV and things like that. So, players, they realize that their own stock takes somewhat of a hit when something like that happens, because now all of a sudden, that next season, Mo Williams goes from being, the third option on the team to being the number one, scoring option on the team. And he's just not going to be able to produce or carry, the workload for that. So naturally things don't work out. We move on from Mo Williams and so on and so forth. Right. But Mo, yeah, he's very easy to root for. And he's kind of just got that baby face look, always wore the headband, knocking down
Yeah,
threes, comes back. And I recall, I'm actually surprised. I don't remember him playing 41 games, by the way, that second stint. I would
yeah.
love to
I
go
don't
back
remember
and
that either.
I would love to go back and watch some regular season games from that season, because I don't remember playing that much. And even, I mean, 8.5 points per game. I don't remember that either.
14
And
minutes per game.
yeah,
Like I don't
yeah,
remember that at all.
like
Like I just remember him getting like garbage time.
garbage time. And I remember him having one little stint in the finals, game 7, where he had like a good couple minute run. He hit a shot or two, made a couple decent plays that contributed to us turning, that game 7 into what it ended up being. And Dante Jones was another one that had another couple good minutes there as well for that game. Kind of just came out of nowhere, played 3 minutes in the game and was able to make some contributions. But Mo Williams, it's a good story. He had a good career. I remember being very excited when he came over from Milwaukee. He was like Larry Hughes to me in a way. Like I always just, back then when we used to watch Sports Center and stuff like that, look at the newspapers and read the stats, like he was always up there. He was just a scoring machine. And I was really excited when we learned that we got him and brought him into Cleveland. And it was pretty cool. We brought him in a second time. And again, probably has one of the best stories out of any players on here, because he ended up being on the championship roster.
All right, who's up next?
So the next one, Outback Jesus.
Oh, your
Deli,
boy,
Deli.
Deli Trays.
Man, what a story Deli is. Australian player, goes undrafted in the league. The Cavs decide to take a chance on him. And we all know what that first stint blossomed into. He's guarding Steph Curry in the NBA Finals, going toe-to-toe with him when Kyrie goes out that first year in 2015, goes to the hospital after the game. And when you want to talk about fan favorites, I mean, Deli was a fan favorite, for sure. And going back to Tristan, the Deli oops to Tristan were always fun to watch. They always had a good connection there. And he was just solid his first go around. And he fit into that Cleveland versus the world kind of mentality because nobody knew who Matthew Dellevadova was outside of Cleveland. You know what I mean? And
Right.
like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Like he would catch teams off radar and stuff like that as a result. And he went away for a little while. He moved. He went to New York. Or, I'm sorry, Milwaukee. He got a contract that he probably didn't deserve. And after a couple years in Milwaukee, he ends up coming back for 3 seasons. AP. I don't remember 3 seasons of Delly here a second time. It doesn't feel like it was that long. And he played almost 80, 90 games that second stint back,
Mm-hmm.
and is out of here by 2021. But 6 seasons total in the Cavs uniform. Nothing impressive number wise, 5.5 points, couple assists per game, nothing crazy, not going to show up in any record books. But if you were a Cavs fan during the Delly era, you know who Delly was. And man, I would see people wearing shirts, the Outback Jesus shirts, and it's Delly
Mm-hmm.
time, and like, just man, it was Delly pandemonium for a little while there.
Oh yeah, I like Delly. He was so scrappy. He brought so much energy. He would dive for balls, fight for balls. He was kind of a streaky shooter. He had a really weird 3-point shot where he'd pull the ball way back. Like it looked like
Yeah,
the ball was going back over the top of his head, and then he'd heave it.
yeah,
So that was always
yeah.
kind of entertaining. He was great in that first stint. In the second stint, he went to Milwaukee, right? And he had some injury issues, and he just never seemed to be the same player that he was with the Cavs the first time around. The second time around, I remember him really struggling with his shot quite a
Yeah.
bit, and he still brought a lot of hustle and energy. But I
It was
think
a different team then too, right?
yeah,
I
it was
mean,
a different team.
2018, this is like the
Yeah.
start of the Colin Sexton era.
Mm-hmm.
And, we don't know, we have 10 guards on the team and we don't know who we like and who we want to keep and stuff like that. But what's also cool though, too, about his first stint was, like Mo Williams, he was on that championship roster.
He was a
So it's
good
pretty
fit next to
cool.
LeBron. He's just another
He,
guy that just
yeah,
you pieced next
just
to LeBron and it
fit,
worked.
yeah, fit really well. And it's pretty cool at the end of the day, he's a champion. And did Milwaukee win it that next year or the year or 2017? I think
I think
Milwaukee won it
he
one
got
of
a
those
ring
years
with
too.
Milwaukee. Yeah.
And you got a ring with Milwaukee as well. His contribution level probably wasn't the same there as it was here, but still, it's pretty cool he was on there. And I'll never forget during the parade, LeBron during his speech says something about every player on the roster. First and foremost, that's pretty impressive to do because like Sasha Khan was there. I don't remember what he said, but what do you say about Sasha Khan?
Yeah.
But I remember him saying about Delly, like he made some kind of like reference, like if Delly was up against a bear or something like that, that damn bear is going to lose or something like that. Because Delly was just that scrappy. I'm ad hocking it a little bit, but he made some kind of comparison like that, like he would take Delly over the bear, and that was awesome. Like that was great.
Yeah.
And Dellevadova, man, it was. I was like TT, like Danny Green, like Varejao. You're like, what? They're bringing him back. And what's crazy was he was only 28 when they brought him back. He was 30 by the time he left Cleveland, and I think he's without a home. I think he's without a home right now. I don't know if he got picked up this year, but he's still relatively young. He's only 32.
The funny thing I remember about Delly was that he would drink a cup of coffee before every game,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I do remember reading that.
he actually
Get
had
hype.
his yeah he actually had the Cleveland coffee roasting company. I can't remember the exact name, but actually had a bag of coffee with his picture on it, and it was the Delly Roast. I
Oh my
never
God.
did get a chance to get a bag of it, but man, I wish that
That's
I had.
crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too good. It's too good. I remember, let's move on. Let's
You
move on.
sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Let's move on.
All
We've been
right.
talking
Next
Delhi
up, we
for an
got
hour.
Tyrone Hill. Played for the
Yeah.
Cavs, 93 to 97, that first stint. Kind of bounced around, spent some time with Milwaukee and Philly, and then came back to the Cavs in 2001 for 2 seasons.
Yeah. Man, man, Tyrone Hill, that first stint, he was solid. It was the end of that Brad Doherty, Mark Price, Craig Elo kind of era,
Oh yeah,
right? He comes in at the tail end of that, picks up with Terrell Brandon, Chris Mills, those kind of guys. And he was an all-star one of the years. I don't remember which year, but he did make the all-star game. And he was just solid, pretty close to a double-double guy. And, he just, from what I remember from him, and we were still relatively young, at that 93, 94, I'm only 10 years old at that point. But what I remember from him was he hustled, and he knew how to get rebounds and get putbacks and things like that. He just quietly did a lot of good things well. And when he came back a second time, again, this is 2001. So this is after Sean Kemp. This is before LeBron James. This is, you know, not the greatest era, right, of Cavs basketball, not the best teams and stuff like that. But when
sure.
he came back the second time, he was still able to somewhat contribute respectable numbers. Like, these are the type of numbers I would be thrilled with if TT can somehow do this. 8 points per game, 11 rebounds. Tristan probably won't do that. But 5 points the next year, 7 rebounds. 6 points the last year, six rebound, or 8 rebounds, I should say. So his rebounding was still pretty good for that second stint. And by that point, he's in his mid 30s. He's 33, 34 years old, still grabbing close to double digit rebounds, on average out of those 3 years. So he had a pretty good second stint. He was just here during an era where the Cavs weren't a very competitive basketball team.
Totally. Yeah.
You got anything you want to say about Tyrone Hill? You got
I
anything as
don't have
far
much
as?
to say about Tyrone Hill. I mean, I liked him. He was a good player, but
Yeah, I
I just
remember.
don't
I
have a
remember
lot to say.
too. He when he went to Philadelphia, he was on the roster. What would that have been? Would that have been 99 and 2000? What was
Yeah.
the year that Philadelphia played the Lakers in the finals? He was on that team, playing with AI and Eric
Iverson, yeah.
Snow, and yeah. So that's pretty cool. I saw some highlights of one of the games from that final series, and I was like, oh yeah, Tyrone. I'm watching Tyrone Hill there. I'm like, oh yeah, Tyrone Hill's running around trying to guard, Shaq at times and stuff like that. Like, that couldn't have been an easy task to try to do. But he had a solid career. I mean, he's been around for a while, and had a second stint with the Cavs, and had a pretty decent second stint when he came back. So pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, the next one, getting towards the end of our list that we have for today. The next one is Robert Tractor Traylor. I feel like we just recently talked about Tractor Trailer on an
We
episode
did
or two back. Second
because I
round.
went down a little bit of a rabbit hole watching
Yeah,
tractor trailer
that's
highlights.
right. That's right. That's right. So he came to Cleveland in 2000, 2001. I don't remember how we acquired him. He played for Milwaukee prior to that as a rookie. I think I still have his rookie card somewhere. And nothing to scream about, right? He played 70 games. He averaged 5 points. He grabbed 4 rebounds per game. So nothing crazy. But he did come back for a second stint, Alex, in 2004, 2005. He played 74 games for the Cavs. He's 27 years old and had similar numbers: 5.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, almost identical to his first stint. And the reason why he's really on this list is because he wasn't really here for very long, but there was just something about him that made him memorable. If you were watching Cavs games around that time, he was a little bit thicker, not
Yeah.
Oliver Miller thick. Remember
He
Oliver
was
Miller?
pretty thick.
Remember how thick Oliver Miller was, man, back in the day. Man, but he was thick, and the whole tractor trailer thing, and we were searching for our next big. Desana Jop, Robert Traylor. My God, we went through so many bigs that were just horrible. But the Cavs decided to bring him back. And what's interesting here, this ended up being his last career or season in the NBA. He died young. We talked about that a couple years later after this. So, kind of his second stint was also his last stint in the NBA, which I thought was a little bit interesting too.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Kind of crazy. All right, Alex,
All
who you
right.
got next?
Next up is the King, LeBron. Drafted by the Cavs in 2003. I think we all know this. Do I need to even read this, Corey?
I don't know. There's some fans out there that
Hey,
could have
we'll
been
do it.
born,
That is true.
in the
It
year
was
2000, and
20
they
years
were 3
ago.
years old. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean, it's impressive he's
2003
still going.
up until 2010.
Yep.
That's when he made the famous decision on TV, took his talents to South Beach,
Yep.
and eventually came back in 2014 to lead us to the glory land.
It's crazy when you look back and think about all that. It's crazy. He did a Hulk Hogan. Like he
Yeah.
was the man. He was the guy. He went Hollywood Hulk Hogan on us by going down to South Beach, embraced the villain role. And like what I remember about his Miami days, like just the color scheme of their jersey. I mean, it was black and orange,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was just dark colors. He wore the black headband and he just embraced it and won 2 more championships down there as a result, and played great basketball.
He
And
totally
then he
joined the
comes,
NWO.
yeah, he totally joined the NWO. NWO, I mean, they were cool back in the day, so nothing wrong with that. But he comes back. He comes back in the fashion that he does. He drops a letter. I still remember that letter. I still remember the image on it and all that stuff. Like that was a crazy moment in Cavs team history. And like you said, ultimately, after a few efforts, delivers on the promise and gets and helps get our first championship in championship history. Just crazy to think about. And at the end of the day, it's going to be somewhat crazy too when he ends up having, a whatever it's going to be, a 22 year long career, whatever it's going to be. And, it's going to end up being he played for the Cavs only half of his career, which is kind of wild to think about when it's all said and done.
Yep. Greatest.
It's going to be, there's going to be people,
greatest
there's going to be
Cavs player of all
historians.
time. I mean,
They're going to be historians that say, how did Cleveland let that happen? How did they only get him for half of his career? And I know this is one of those hot topics where, for whatever reason, the fan base is divided. That's fine. But at the end of the day, without LeBron James, you don't have that championship. You don't have all those fun years. Alex doesn't become a ticket season holder when he did, because there would have been nothing there to generate you becoming a season ticket holder. And if you were a Cavs fan during that era, we were all there paying the extra high prices to go see the King play in in downtown Cleveland.
hey, man, I had some Cavs partial season tickets when they didn't have LeBron. Come on.
What was that, after LeBron though, or before LeBron?
Oh, after LeBron. Like,
Okay, well, there you
before
go.
LeBron, I would have been way too young to buy season tickets.
Yeah, I mean,
look at these years. We drafted him in 2003.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I graduated high school in 2000. It's not like I'm going to be coming out of high school and getting Cavs season tickets.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. You could have decided I don't want to go to college and I'm just going to spend my life savings on watching the Cavs.
Why didn't I think of that?
Courtside.
Did I make a mistake?
You might have.
Maybe.
I don't know. But yeah, what more do you say? I mean, we all know the story. We all know what he's done. And greatest Cavs player in history up until this point. Anybody argues differently, then I question your intelligence. Just, it is what it is. You cannot like him, but that's where he stands right now. And you have a championship to thank him for.
There's other more villainous players, I think, that the Cavs have had. Maybe that'll be another podcast.
There you go. That'd be a fun one too. Like, I feel like we come up with 3 more ideas just talking through this. So that's good. Because we need content until we get to actual
villainous
Cavs
players.
Yes. All right. Last one on our list. I'm sure there's been more Cavs players that have had double stints. These were the most notable ones I can find in less than a day's time frame. But this last one, I think, AP, is going to get you the most riled up because there's a little bit of a twist. It's not a player. It's a coach.
Vinny Del
Mr.
Negro.
Potato Head himself, Mike Brown.
Oh, Mike Brown. Get out of here.
Michael.
Mr. Potato Head.
What do you say about Mike Brown? I'll let you go first.
I just remember him sitting on the bench spitting into a cup. Like, how is that even
relentlessly.
allowed? How's that?
I,
Like, was he
I,
chewing tobacco during every
no, I
single
think it was
game?
like it couldn't have been tobacco. Maybe it was
Sunflower
like
seeds?
sunflower seeds.
I
But
don't
what
know.
bothered me the
It
most
was
was
annoying.
how often the camera would pan to him while he did that. Like it was like every game we were gonna see him spitting into a cup potentially multiple times, at least once though. It was a guarantee. And yeah, I don't know. It just he was here during a good run, 2005 to 2010. So obviously those were fun years. The Delonte West years, the Boobie Gibson years, the Drew Gooden, the Wild Thing years, us going to our first finals. You know, we're going to playoff runs year after year, beating Detroit, watching LeBron evolve right before our eyes. Mike Brown, of course, gets no credit for any of that, and he only stuck around that long because of the roster that was there, right? But then the decision happens and LeBron skips town. Mike Brown becomes somewhat of the scapegoat, as most coaches do, and he's gone. He goes to LA, funny enough, before LeBron gets out there. But didn't he coach? He coached Kobe, I believe, right? He coached Kobe for a couple years. He was still playing in
Yeah.
2011, 2012, right?
Yep.
So kind of wild. He went from LeBron to Kobe. It didn't work out that great. Um, but in 2013, Dan Gilbert makes, I'm going to say, one of the worst decisions he could have made post the decision, and decides to bring him back. Almost like it almost felt like he was trying to right a wrong, and like it felt like maybe he thought he should have gave Mike Brown one more year to see what he could do with the team after LeBron left. It would have been a shit show no matter who was the coach,
I kind
and
of
Mike Brown would have
remember,
been gone after that anyways. But they brought him back 2 seasons later, and it was a train wreck. Team
and
goes
I, and
33 and
I,
49.
I think we still had him under contract during all those years. Like,
Yes.
remember he signed like an insane extension, and then
Yes. We were paying
we
like
released
Byron's
him.
we were
Yeah.
paying Byron Scott, Mike Brown. There might even have been a time, no joke, and I need to look this up now because I won't be able to fall asleep unless I figure this out. There might have been a time we were paying 3 coaches at the same time. But Mike
Oh
Brown
yeah.
was definitely benefiting and getting paid for years not being around. Crazy. Team goes 33 and 49, and you got to think about the time frame. 2013, 2014. This is young Kyrie. This is Luol Deng, and this is the Andrew Bynum experiment, I should say. Like that's the roster he had to work with. Um, it was going to be a train wreck no matter what. And
Yeah.
the next year he was gone, and he moves to Golden State for a couple years, gets the assistant role over there, and then eventually lands the Sacramento gig as the head coach, and has helps turn that team around, I guess.
I want to
But
say
Mike
we were.
Brown, man,
Yeah. I want to say we were paying like Byron Scott, David Blatt, Tyrone Lue, like
yeah,
all around the same time.
there was some weird scenario where we were paying multiple coaches, and Mike Brown was the biggest beneficiary of that because it was like years after he was gone, he was still getting paid. So it was wild, and now that I think about it, I don't know if there's been another Cavs coach in team history that actually had a second stint with the team. He might have been the only one. Now that I think about it, so that's kind of unique.
You might be
And not
right.
the one that you probably would have picked. I would have went with like Lenny Wilkins or Mike Fratello. Even George Karl. George Karl, a lot of people forget he was a Cavs coach early on. In the 80s and stuff like that. He obviously turned into a very good coach, had some good runs with some teams, Seattle and so on and so forth. Like he would have been a good guy to bring back for a second stint, but nope, we went with Mike Brown.
I kind of want to say Larry Drew, but not as a head coach. I think he was like an assistant coach
He
for a while, left, and
he
then
was an
came
assistant
back
coach. I think he
and
was
was a head
assistant
coach.
coach under like Ty Lue or David Blatt, I should say, that era. But then
Mm.
yeah, he came back for a little while as a head coach. But Mike Brown was a head coach to head coach, second stint kind of thing, to where Larry Drew was a little bit different. So he might have been the only one. But I'll have to look it up.
Is there a previous Cavs coach you think that if you were to bring back and replace JB with, that we would be better?
Gosh. The problem is those guys are up there in age now. Like Lenny Wilkins. I mean, he's got to be significantly up there now. Um, I liked Mike Fratello a lot, and probably I'm a little bit biased because again, around his era was when I was really starting to get old enough and paying attention to like Cavs basketball, right? We talked about this, when Mark Price was drafted in 87, I wasn't watching Cavs basketball at 3-4 years old, right? But by the time Fratello came around and Terrell Brandon and that era, I'm watching it religiously now. And he was a good coach and he was around for multiple years. And I always felt like I would have liked to have seen him a little bit longer, or when we started, like, I wonder what he could have been with the LeBron era. It would have been interesting. He probably would be at the top of my list. What about you?
Um, I was looking through the list of Cavs coaches and thinking, man, the Cavs have had some really incredible coaches in the past. I mean, we had Chuck Daly,
Yep.
who ended up leading the Detroit Bad Boys to a couple championships. They had George Karl for a couple of
Yep.
years. I mean, they've had some great coaches.
Even
So
Bill
that's
Fitch, Bill Fitch, the first
Bill Fitch.
coach. Yeah, I mean, very early on in the Cavs team history, they had some good coaches, and it was also early on in those coaches' careers, right? Because the George Karls, the Chuck Dalys of the world, they went on to be pretty good coaches, right?
Yeah.
And had pretty solid NBA careers afterwards. So yeah, it's just too bad that we didn't get to hang on to some
Bill
of those
Fitch
guys
left
for a
the
little bit longer.
Cavs, went to the Celtics, and won a championship.
Exactly. The first year he went to the Celtics, I believe they won a championship, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, even like the whole history of Cavs coaches is interesting to look at too. And there's been some duds in there for sure. But when you look back, you're like, wow, really? I didn't know George Karl was a coach of the Cavs. Wait, they had a playoff run with George Karl? There's just people that don't know that, right? And you have to be kind of a Cavs, I don't know, diehard fan to care or look back or look that stuff up. But this is again where I wish, like, man, I wish there was a way I can go back and just watch that era of basketball somehow. And there's just not a way to do that outside of the little small grainy, crappy clips you can find on YouTube. I just not just, and they're always usually some sort of significant game. It's just not game 40 out of the season, a random game in Cleveland in January. That means nothing. You know what I mean? It wasn't a playoff game. It wasn't an all-star game. Just a random game. I wish there's so bad there was a way to do that. But yeah, it's pretty funny that Mike Brown's the only coach, at least appears to be the only one that made a second stint. So to kind of wrap up this segment, I'm going to ask you one last question, kind of put you on the spot here. But is there a former Cavs player that is still playing in the NBA today that you wouldn't mind at some point before they retire coming back and having a second stint with the team?
Ooh.
I got to be honest, this is a tough one.
I've already
It's a
got a
tough one
player
for
in
me.
mind. I just kind of feel like I'm going to get roasted for saying it. Oh boy, I don't know if I want to say it.
Say it, man. I
What
mean,
if,
if you say
like,
Kevin Love, that's just predictable.
no,
That's
I mean,
not, I mean,
like, are you saying like next season? Like, does it have to be
any, any,
realistic?
any, any, any season. I mean,
Like,
it doesn't have to be next season.
could I say Lauri Markkanen? Like, he would be great to have back.
Yeah, no, totally. He would be a good one to have back. And that one stings a little bit, right? And imagine him with this current roster. Now, I don't know how we would have made that work. But yeah, Marketing, it would have been a great one to have back. And maybe he's young yet, right? So maybe at some point he comes back. And, really what's interesting too with all these players outside of maybe LeBron is they all came back on the second half of their careers, right? Like they're in their 30s, for the most part, and they're playing 8 games or 5 games like Andy did and so on and so forth. So it'd be
I
cool to
mean,
have somebody come back that can actually contribute as well.
yeah, I mean, I feel like there's not a lot of ex-Cavs players that are quality that are still floating around the
All
league.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
you got
I agree.
Markkanen,
Sexton.
shoot, Sexton. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Um Man, uh, uh, is Rodney Hood still out there somewhere?
I don't know. I don't know. I'd bring him
George
back just
Hill, but
because.
he's long gone. He's pretty old now.
Yeah, it's a tough question. It's an interesting question.
Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah, you know what? Jordan Clarkson would be a great one. I'll go with Jordan. You go with Marketing, and
I'll go
it's
with
funny
Jetty
we're
Osman.
both on Utah. There you go, Chetty.
Jetty Osman, who is who I was originally going to say, and then I'm like, no, I can't do it.
Heck, I say at this point, and I guess this is cheating because he's not in the NBA. Bring back JR at this point. Why not? Let him come in, jack up 5 3-pointers a game. Sure.
He's too busy working on his golf swing. How old is
I
Jr.
know.
now? He's got to be up there in years now.
I don't think I bet you he's younger than what you think. How old do you think he is?
He had a long career, 34. He had a long career before he even came to the Cavs.
He did.
Oh
I'm
man,
looking it
he's
up.
38.
Oh,
So he is older than I thought.
wow, he is. Okay. Yeah, I just look at Shumpert. Shumpert's only 33.
Oh,
He
I
came
can't
up
believe
as related
Shumpert's only
people.
33.
Yeah, and he's out of the league.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, I didn't think JR was that old yet. So yeah, that might not be a good idea. But yeah, it's a fun question to think about, but it's also a difficult one to answer. Because yeah,
Dion
past
Waiters.
that, oh,
He's trying to get back into the league, right? I
he
just
is
saw
trying to
that
get back in the
article
league.
this summer.
Yeah, we did. I think he had a tryout lined up, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with Jordan Clarkson. You can go with Clarkson. That's fine.
There we go.
Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. So yeah, that was a fun little segment, a fun long segment. But it's always, Alex. I think you and I we enjoy revisiting Cavs past, right? Past players, past teams, past history. Shoot. And anytime we can drop in little nuggets like Oliver Miller. Oliver Miller got a shout out on the podcast today, even though he wasn't a Cavs player. Like, it's too fun, right? But that was a good little segment. And
There
do we
was
want to get
a
anything else, or do you want to wrap it up, or do you want to talk?
well,
You want to
before
talk
we
Dream
start
Team?
the podcast, Corey, you said there
Yeah.
was going to be a question you were going to ask me, but then you didn't end up asking me about Tristan Thompson and where I would rank him
Oh
among
yeah.
Cavs power forwards.
Oh man, yeah, missed bad job out of me, right?
And then I
So
was like, well, how am I going to do that? I'd have to think of every Cavs power forward in history.
just all right.
So this entire episode, I've been sitting here thinking, man, what power forwards have the Cavs have that I would rank above Tristan Thompson? And then you didn't ask me the question, so I'm a little bummed.
Well, let's do it now and let's simplify it.
All right.
Where would you rank Tristan Thompson within the top 10 all-time best Cavs power forward / center? Because he technically was listed as a center,
like
but
players
that have played for the Cavs
that had their best seasons with the Cavs or were with
no,
the
just
Cavs
just
for like
like
one
just
season.
like LeBron's the best player in team history, right?
Sure.
Like Zadrunas is going to be on a lot of people's best centers list, right? Where you rank him is where you rank him. But like, where would you put Tristan? I guess if you're classifying him as a center, you got the Zadrunas Agauskas, you got the Brad Dohertys, you got the Mozgoffs. Like, where would you rank Tristan? Would you put him within the top 10? Let's just start there.
See, now I thought we were listing him as a power forward. Now he's a center.
Okay, do power forward,
that's a
then.
muddy line. That's a muddy line.
It is because he was undersized, but he played center for most of his Cavs career.
That's true. Because then I was thinking, all right, power forwards the Cavs have had, right? We had Ben Wallace. We had Hot Rod Williams,
Kevin Love. Yeah, there's
K.
definitely some
Love.
names that jump out at you. But for me, if I'm going centers, I'm putting Tristan in my top 10, but he's like right on the fringe. He's like 8, 9, 10. 7, 8,
All
9,
right.
10, somewhere around there. And I have to go back and I'd have to do a deep dive on centers in Cavs history. but he's definitely within the top 10, but he's not like within my top 5.
I would say top 10, but yeah, not top 5. Bottom of the
Yeah.
top 10. Certainly below Bill Laimbeer.
The 11 seasons, the 800 whatever he played games, the double, career averages, just all that is squashed by the 1 year of subpar Bill Laimbeer.
That's right.
All right.
Hey, wait a minute.
All right. You want to wrap this up, or do you want to talk Team USA? Real quick.
Go ahead. Team USA.
Team USA sucks. It's embarrassing, and they finished 4th in the World Games or whatever just happened. They lose to Canada in the bronze game. They lose to Dylan Brooks. That's embarrassing. But what kind of came out of it was some players saying, you know what? This is embarrassing, and we're not going to allow this to happen. And LeBron came out, and even though he'll be 40 by then, has committed to play in the next, FIBA World Game, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also already enlisted some help. What were some names that you saw, Alex?
Yeah, I was just trying to find some of those names. I know that Kevin Durant was one of them, Steph Curry. Like, he pulled in some big names.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because they're big names, but they're also big names on the second half of their careers, right? So you gotta, it's like the dunk contest. Fans always say they're tired of the nobodies being in it, right? Kevin Durant never did a dunk contest. LeBron never did a dunk contest, right? Instead, you got the rookie or maybe a subpar, like Aaron Gordon was good, Zach LaVine was good, but it still wasn't LeBron. It still wasn't, Kevin Durant, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool that, okay, we're going to have some big names, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you guys are all over 35. I just wonder if this will turn into an opportunity from someone for the Cavs to get, like, it'd be cool if Donovan Mitchell was on that team. Or maybe by then, they're taking someone like an Evan Mobley or someone like that, a Darius Garland, that'd be fun to watch, right? If a Cavs player or two can get on that roster, and it'd be cool if Team USA, the Redeem Team Part 2 or whatever, right? They end up winning the gold the next time that they play, and so it was just kind of interesting to see Team USA kind of fall apart, kind of cringeworthy, and then right after that, basically like him coming out and saying enough of this, we're there next year. I'm committed, basically.
So I'm seeing LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum, and Draymond Green are all prepared to commit, as well as Devin Booker, Damian Lillard, De'Aaron Fox, and Kyrie Irving also expressing interest.
Wow. Yeah, there's some names on there that it's like not cringeworthy, but a little bit like, really? Draymond, but I get it, right? So again, it's going to be better. I think it's going to draw more attention than this current roster that went there, or some of the previous rosters that went, where it's usually a little bit of the younger guy. It kind of feels like the B team or the C team even. You know what I mean? It's still your A team, even though those guys are getting up there. And hopefully they mix it up with some younger guys, see what Christian Leitner's doing. And, maybe they can snag someone off of the Cavs roster too. I think that'd be cool.
Bring back Dwayne Wade.
There you go.
Shaq.
Right. All right. So let's wrap this episode up, Alex. We went over an hour, but hey, it was fun talking about some Cavs basketball players, second stint players. Always fun reminiscing and catching up and chatting. And with that, Cavs fans, we want to thank you as always for tuning in and listening. And Alex, you want to let them know where they can go ahead and follow us and connect with us.
Follow us on Twitter at Cavs Pick and Roll. Shoot us an email, cavspickandroll@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, and wherever you're listening, click like, click subscribe, leave us a rating or a review. We'd appreciate it.
All right, Cavs fans, there it is. We will talk to you again soon.
Peace out, Cavs fans.